This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. It is time for more Law Light, brought to you by Foreman, Watson, Holtree, FWH Legal. We are, again, here at the 530 Frederica Street at the high-rise white brick edifice. And we're going to get right to it today, PJ. I went downstairs and riled up Jim Watson, my law partner. And Jim's been on the show before. Jim, I kind of quickly briefed you on the way up the stairs that we've been doing a Christmas.
Yeah, you want to talk to me about photosynthesis, I think.
That's what it was, photosynthesis. So, PJ, first of all, that'll be the word of the day.
Oh, great.
And so what is photosynthesis, PJ?
Photosynthesis is where a photographer synthesizes a photo using Photoshop.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You got it. I agree with him. So let's move right along. So I told Jim about our Christmas movie bracket.
Awesome.
But before we get to that, before we get to the fun stuff, Jim is not only my law partner, but he's also the principal in another business which is well known and oftentimes gets named synonymously with the firm, and it's Foreman Watson Land Title.
Right.
And, I get asked from time to time a couple questions. One is, well, are you all one and the same and that type of thing? But then I also get asked, like, what is the purpose of land title? How does that process work? And, when you walk downstairs here, there are a lot of people in a lot of places, and each of them kind of have their nose in a file or at a computer. They're working on a particular part of a process. So I wanted Jim to kind of explain what the purpose of a land title company is and how that process works, kind of from what an order is and then where it goes, so that people, when they ask us these questions or kind of want to know the relationship, they have a little bit better understanding of how our two businesses kind of coincide and relate to one another. So, Jim, without further ado, it's up to you. So, just kind of give us the process of what's going on in a land title company.
It's primarily transactional in nature. When a person makes an offer in a house, we get either the bank sends us the copy of the purchase contract or the realtor does, and then we take that contract, get the information, the names, the addresses, and then we typically go to the local courthouses, and some of them are online now. And then we do a search. And a lot of people think, well, the search is you just plug in the name and everything pops up, but it doesn't work that way. Searches, you have to run through different indexes. There's a grantor index, mortgage index, encumbrance index. And then with computers, it's even more difficult, at least personally, I think, because you have to remember that clerks are human beings, so when they input the names, they could make a mistake on the spelling of it.
Right.
If you're searching the computer records, you may not catch that lien.
Okay.
And when our firm does, or when our company does the search, we have a provision in our opinions that we search the relevant and properly indexed records of that county. So if something's misspelled, it's not covered. But what closes that gap is title insurance. That's why title insurance, I think, is important for homeowners, because the lenders typically require it most of the time, but we're probably 45% homeowners here in this area. But once we do the search, we figure out what liens are on it, tax liens, property taxes, judgments, mortgages, and then we get payoffs on that, and then a closing set. But we also work simultaneously with the lender to make sure that its closing package is ready, and then there's a closing period in the contract, which they try to meet, and then we all get to the table, hopefully together, but also it can be separately. And then we go through the numbers, go through the loan package, sign the deed, sign the mortgage, the note, and then we close the transaction and ship everything out to record, and then also to the lender.
Okay. That's like, 90-second explanation of a complex, process. But a couple of questions. So let's say the overall purpose of that process is to be able for a seller to give property to a buyer for a price. There's sometimes financing involved with that, sometimes not. It's a cash deal. But when that property changes hands, it is to let the buyer know he's getting an unencumbered or if it's encumbered, what those are, and those have to be taken care of before the closing. Is that
right? That's right.
Is that it?
Yeah, a lot of times the participants, it's kind of seamless to them because, they're the buyers are asked questions from the lender if there's a lender involved, and then we typically generally only contact the buyer if there's a particular problem, or if there's information we need, and then we contact the seller oftentimes because we need the loan number for any mortgage to get the payoff. Right. And at the end of it, what's supposed to happen is the seller conveys free and clear title, and the bank, if they have a loan, the bank's in a first position. And if there's no loan, if it's a cash deal, then the customer owns it free and clear.
Now, there's a couple of things that I want to kind of springboard off of that with. Number one is okay, well, there's Foreman Watson Land Title, which is a company that exists for that process of getting the title insurance in place and getting a matter closed for both the lender and the buyer and the seller. How does that correlate, or why is there a need for a law firm? From my experience as the managing partner of the law firm, when somebody comes and closes a deal here, and 2 years later they're wanting to do something else, like purchase another piece of property, or they're having a dispute about property or something like that, they immediately think of us.
Right.
And then that has to get kicked up, if it's a dispute of some nature, kicked up to the law firm for the attorneys to handle, correct?
Yeah, and it's not limited just to disputes. For example, you could have, let's say, a seller, it's an elderly seller who happens to have a guardianship.
Right.
A lot of people in Kentucky don't realize that just because the court appointed you guardian doesn't give you the power to sell real estate. They say, well, we're guardian, or we're guardian. We can open accounts and sign contracts, but the statute specific, you cannot sell real estate without a court order. And then it has to sit for 30 days. So it's about a 60-day process to get it. So we end up sending those up here. And then sometimes in an estate, if there's no attorneys, if there's a lien issue with an heir, we can ask the court, if there's no will, we can ask the court to appoint an administrator's appointed, but we can ask that the court settle it under the KRS 389A 010 statute, which is the guardian fiduciary statute.
Okay.
So, and then there's property boundary disputes either before or after closings, or not related, but they've been in here on other property. Ohio County seems to be hot for that. And there's just there's issues like that are pop up. And sometimes you're like whack-a-mole, you take care of that one, and then there's, 10 other ones that
pop up,
call in, or
So that sort of is how, a long time before I came along as the managing partner of the law firm, you all had this law firm that was there with the land title company, and it was because of these sundry of issues that would pop up and you needed lawyers to deal with them. But then about 9-10 years ago, there was a decision to expand that because we saw the potential of land title creating clients for the firm.
Right.
And then the firm being able to do a lot of marketing, which would bring focus to land title. And so that's kind of where we jumped off in 2011 and started heading down. Let's genuinely build a big firm that's more than just servicing land title or helping land title, but create business back and forth. So that's
right. Yeah, I think they complement each other.
Right.
We have a lot of people coming through the doors, and you can't help but see. The outside of the building has the name, and I think we answer the phone the same way. So they hear that, and that's kind of who they think of.
Right. One last thing about this before we head off to the Christmas part of the show and let PJ start to do some talking. But
I'm still trying to figure out if I have title insurance.
I'll sell you some.
You just talked about a process that talks about a lot of what I would say movement of information across electronic media, okay? We're more and more, especially with COVID, we're seeing that we're doing more and more virtually, we're doing more electronically, we're seeing wiring of funds, and you and I have had some very lengthy discussions about wire fraud and how that system now is open for attacks of fraud. Talk for just a second about what you're seeing, and not without giving any details, but what you're seeing with regards to how crafty or how well advanced this scheme of fraud is in that business.
Yeah, I mean, there's a myriad of ways that it happens, but primarily, the hackers send some anonymous email, and if you happen to click on it, then they can have access to your system, and you won't even know it. Fortunately, we have an inside system that we pay a lot of money for that. And it protects us as best we can, but we can't protect what other people do.
Right.
So if you have generally AOLs or the old AOLs and Gmail and Yahoos, those are not near as protected. And if you happen to click on something, they can. I think they have algorithms that they can check and see. In the emails, because they can't read every email, but they get alerted when they hear certain word or see certain words like closing statement, settlement, those kind of things, and then they start narrowing their search on those items. And once they see those, then they'll start paying attention, and then they kind of intervene and send something to an unsuspecting buyer that, hey, the spoof email where it kind of looks like it's from a lawyer or a title company and says, hey, to get your closing done on time, you need to wire the funds to this. And if you look at their address bar, it's some other company, but nobody seems like they used to, years ago, they were misspellings and you obviously knew it was a fake, but now they're pretty sophisticated and it looks genuine. I mean, you have to, but what we always try to tell people is that if you're going to wire funds, you need to call the number of our office and not the number that's on that wiring instruction. That's the only way I know to prevent it is to call to verify the wiring information.
I mean, but it's becoming more and more sophisticated. I mean, even with me, 10 years ago when I started here, we didn't have to put things on our emails, and we didn't. It seems like daily we're adding red language, warning, watch out for, and just 2 or 3 days ago, somebody tried to mimic one of our email names and things like that. I mean, it is like an everyday.
Plus, the bar has that ethics rule, don't they?
Right. Now, the bar came down. We have a cybersecurity rule that basically we have the duty when a client hires us to tell them, A, we keep your file in an electronic format. B, we communicate electronically a lot about your case. Therefore, it could be compromised. And then we have to tell them what we do to try to keep it from being compromised. And then they have to sign an acknowledgement. It's a part of the intake with a new client. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a new day for all that stuff. And it stinks because it does kind of it makes you less productive and it kind of burden, but you have to do it, And
that's the hard thing is, we can pay and take as much precautions as necessary, but it's if other people, don't do the same thing, because nobody wants to pay extra money for protection. But the only advice I would give them is don't wire something,
right? Or
make sure you're talking to the right company and get the wiring instructions from them and not from some email.
Right. Well, I appreciate, this has been helpful. Even people that work here don't quite understand the relationship or what's going on, and people downstairs don't understand what's going on upstairs. And it's good that we can kind of have that explained. But we are going to move into the Holly Jolly Christmas part of this. And so one of the things, Jim, is that just to kind of let you know exactly how we got to today, is that at the beginning of at the end of November, I tasked PJ with coming up with like an NCAA tournament bracket. I said, come up with the 32. We didn't go 64. We went 32. Okay, let's find the 32 best or
are they all playing each other in a COVID-free environment?
It's a COVID-free environment, yes. Yeah, no fans.
Yeah.
So
it's cardboard cutouts.
We do have crowd noise, but so we went from 32 to 16, and on that day we had Kathy help us make that cut. So the way the rules work is I'm the deciding vote. You two debated. If you two agree, there's no need for my vote. So then we got Davin in to cut it from the Sweet 16 to the Elite 8, and the Elite 8 is what's in front of you. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start this, PJ, Right, we're just going to go right into it. Okay?
Sounds good.
And we've been getting a lot of debate on our. This is Jim. Just so you know, this has generated a lot of debate on social media. People like sending us emails, text messages, and stuff saying, "Look, man, you guys got this all wrong." Blah blah blah. So it's been a good thing to kind of people are getting a little frisky about it.
Oh, I've been getting private messages of people, I won't say attacking me, but very aggressively wanting to know like why certain movies are on there aren't on there.
Right, I've seen those, and you tell them like listen to the podcast and things like that. Let me ask
that
you,
in the. I'm just looking at the drawings here. The luck of the draw had something to do with it.
It did, and we discussed that yesterday. That next we're going to try to make this an annual thing on the podcast, and next year you may have a lot of these same movies, but the pairings are different, and so so let me ask you before we go much further, Jim. Are you a Christmas movie guy? I mean, there's some people that just if
yes,
they walk.
I like to watch them.
Okay, great. Well, Davin Shaw hates them. He does not like them. He says they're dumb, and he doesn't spend much time watching them. So it was really interesting. That's one of the reasons a few got nixed last week because Davin just.
Well, he had still seen quite a few of them.
Yeah,
he saw more than what I thought he would have seen.
He was probably wanting to get Saving Private Ryan or something.
Yeah, that's the way he is.
Well, if you add some snow to it, it could be.
There you go. I mean, that's one of the questions. No, I mean, the very first one here. We're getting it down to some very, very good ones, and so this is going to be an interesting day. So we're going to start off with the first pairing, and that brings Die Hard head-to-head with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase and others. And first, before you two vote, let's ask, how did the public vote this week on that?
Unfortunately, John McClane didn't really survive this round.
So Die Hard gets next.
Well, I've got the answer for that.
Yeah.
Christy Brinkley.
That's true.
Just browsing. Browsing. Yeah. Okay, well, Jim's already told us which one. He went directly to the reason for his vote.
Yeah.
BJ, how would you vote on this one?
While I love Die Hard, and I've been a proponent for this film from day one, and how it is a Christmas movie, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is not only more of a Christmas movie, but it's
a cult.
Yeah, it's just a great film in general, and like you said, it's so
Cousin Eddie
quotable. Yeah, there's one line that every time we talk about the movie, there's one line I want to say, but we'd have to bleep it out. So
there's a lot of lines like that. But
everyone knows
relates.
what line I'm thinking.
Now I was crossing 26th or whatever street going toward JR one Halloween. Mm-hmm. I looked to my right. There's a big modular home, and some guy's out in the Cousin Eddie outfit, and he's got the garden hose on and with a robe on. And so I go around the block to take a picture, and he's already.
I didn't see that. You'd have thought that would have made social media.
Wait, did you say that by the time he circled back around,
he's gone? Because I don't know if that was. Yeah,
that's odd.
That's funny. That's funny. No, Jim, just in case, let me ask you this: you weren't here for the but there's been a debate. Would you just say, but if I said, "Hey, Die Hard's a Christmas movie," yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so see,
right.
Die Hard's a Christmas movie because it centers around Christmas time. What was it I saw this week though that it was a Thanksgiving movie?
But it's not just a
Christmas movie.
Yeah, it's action and all that.
Right.
But to me, the Die Hard and National Lampoon, it reminds me of course, I'm old enough, the 1960s, whoever drew UCLA, even if you're the best other team, if you drew them in the first round,
you're done. That's right.
So that's the pairing issue, because either one of those could have been in a different pairing
in advance.
Yeah,
I agree, and it's for Die Hard to have made it, to this point demonstrates that. But Christmas Vacation has knocked out the previous two, just like you said. Just like, okay, you're gone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the next one is so we're advancing Christmas Vacation. There was no dispute between the two of you. The public voted that way. I don't need to vote. I'm just advancing it on the bracket, the official bracket over here. We will continue with our photosynthesis. What's the definition again?
Photos are synthesized in Photoshop by a photographer.
Right. So we move on to the next pairing, Jingle All the Way versus Elf. And so we will, first of all, before we go to the public on this one, we'll let Jim have the first vote.
Of the 8, I think that's probably the weakest bracket.
Okay. All right. That's interesting.
Oh, wow.
I like Will Ferrell, but sometimes he's a little over the top, so I'm going to have to go with Jingle All the Way.
Are you trying to tell me you're not a Step Brothers fan?
All right, that's interesting.
Well, this is where we're gonna have a difference in opinion. I think, like, I like Jingle All the Way. It is a fun family movie, but if I had the choice between the two, it would be Elf, because I think I'm a big Will Ferrell fan. He is an acquired taste for some people, so I do get that. But I thought Elf was probably one of his better efforts.
Okay,
and so I would go with Elf.
All right. Public.
The public, Jingle All the Way got slaughtered.
Oh, did it?
Yes. Elf won out big time, 26-4.
30 votes, 26 of them for Elf.
Yeah, but of the 8, those would be the last 2 that I'd want to
Okay,
watch.
well, that's interesting. He's thinking this is a weak pairing, and Elf had kind of rolled sort of like Christmas Vacation had up to this point.
Yeah.
This one's tough for me because I've been a proponent for Jingle All the Way. Hey,
You have.
on a one-horse open sleigh.
You're a poet and didn't know it.
And I still like Jingle All the Way. I like it personally better than Elf. I like the movie better than Elf. It held my attention. It wasn't. There was a point where some of the silly humor wore me down on Elf.
Yeah,
but
that's
with
how
Jingle
I
All the
was.
Way, it's just kind of it's a lighthearted movie, kids movie, but then adults can relate to it because of the parental struggle of getting a toy.
Right.
I just, it's going to be shocking to people if I'm casting the deciding vote. We're going to advance Jingle All the Way.
Oh man. We're going to have some angry people on the next Facebook posts.
Can I say this? Does it really matter who advances there? Because look at who they get in the next round.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's true. I'll give you that.
So it's like we just to spark up a little bit of controversy on social media.
Backpedaling.
No,
Travis,
I'm not
what's the
backpedaling.
definition of backpedaling?
It's the same as photosynthesis. Whatever you want it to be. All right. Okay. The next pairing is a strong one. This is putting 2 heavyweights. This is a good one. It pairs Home Alone, all right, against a Charlie Brown Christmas. Home Alone versus Charlie Brown Christmas. Jim went first on the last one. PJ, you get to open up on this one.
I love both of these. However, I think Home Alone is probably one that I watched continuously over and over and over again. I mean, Charlie Brown Christmas is one of those traditional movies that play on TV, like specials that, families gather around and will watch it because it's something that everybody, whether they feel like they have to or not, that's something that they do. But I think Home Alone is also a movie that you could watch outside the season because it's just a fun movie. And like you said, it's something that parents can relate to. It's something that kids can relate to.
Right.
And it's action. It's comedy. So I would go with Home Alone.
Home Alone gets PJ's nod.
I like both of those. If you think about a Charlie Brown movie, there's undertones of every character has something that everybody can identify to different people.
Right.
You know, each character has these characteristics. And gosh, I know a kid like that.
Yeah.
I know a girl like that.
I knew a kid, yes.
And that's what brings me into Charlie Brown. But it's between the movies. I mean, Home Alone's a slam dunk, I think.
I think one of the unique characteristics of Home Alone, Jackson, he just turned 8, loves Home Alone because he's like the same age as the kid, right?
Right.
He may be, I don't know how old he was in the movie. How old
he
was
was 8.
8 or 9, right?
8,
Okay.
yeah.
So it can hold the attention of kids. The kids love that movie, but adults too. And I think that's probably one of the unique characteristics of Christmas Vacation is that all age groups find something about the movie that's amusing and relatable, and it just and I think that's the formula that it takes to make these, because at Christmas time you're watching a lot of movies with your kids,
Yeah.
And it has that worst parent fear that they forgot their kid. I actually do know somebody that left their kid in Nashville like midnight. But I won't go into that story.
No, we better. Yeah, I'm like, oh boy,
that's actually happened in my family. My there's a story that's circulating in my family that an uncle of mine when he was like 6, accidentally got left at a funeral by my grandmother and grandfather.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, like they
Was it
didn't
at
even.
a church? Was it at a church, like a church, or was it in the
That
out
I don't
in
know
the
specifically.
graveyard? Or?
I don't know.
Did he
but
not get in the back of the wagon?
And our last name is not McAllister, so I don't know. I don't know all the details. I just know that he got left, and apparently before, like by the time they got home, they realized it. And around the same time, I guess the funeral home was like calling their house because this predates cell phones. But
that reminds me of that reminds me of the joke of the taxi cab driver in Chicago that's driving down the road, and the guy behind him reaches up and touches him on the shoulder, and he goes hysterical and almost wrecks the taxi cab. And the guy goes, "What the hell is your problem, man? I just tapped you on the shoulder." He goes, "You got to understand, for the last 10 years, I've driven a hearse."
that's pretty good.
All right, so I no disagreement between the two. Just for the sake of knowing, public went Home Alone on this.
They went Home Alone, but it was close. It was off by like 4 votes.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, Home Alone's gonna carry that bracket, or carry that pairing, and advance to the final 4. The final 4. So we have 3 of the final 4 determined. Just for review's sake, that's Christmas Vacation, Jingle All the Way, and Home Alone. And it comes down to the last pairing for discussion today to advance one of the next 2. Home Alone 2 versus Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And Jim, we'll let you jump in on this one.
Let's see. I'll put my movie critic glasses on here. Home Alone 2, like a lot of sequels, don't quite live up to the original.
Okay.
So I've got to go with Rudolph because it's a classic.
All right. He's advancing Rudolph. PJ?
I'm torn because I think you're right. I think Home Alone is just a literal rehash of the first movie. It's just a couple things that were changed, but it's the same movie. But it's still a fun movie. Rudolph, I love that movie. I grew up watching it a lot as a kid, especially around the holidays. But I'm kind of torn because I'd watched Home Alone 2 a lot also after it came out. I'll go with Rudolph as well. I think in terms of what's a better Christmas movie, it's going to be Rudolph.
What did the public do? Rudolph?
Yeah, Rudolph by 10 votes.
All right. Now one interesting thing was
that was 10,000 votes, right?
It's 10,000
Yes,
votes. Yeah,
yeah,
we're 10 votes. Yeah, we're
10.5.
What is your? You told me at the close of the last one, real quick, there was some controversy about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
And there still is. It's that it's attributed to the millennials and the this is gonna sound bad no matter how you say it, but the generation of crybabies.
Right. Everybody gets a trophy crowd.
Right. So the idea behind people complaining about Rudolph is they say that the movie it glorifies bullying in the sense that like Santa and the other reindeer make Rudolph feel like garbage, right? Because they don't want to include him in their games and this, that, and the other. Well, when he finally is included, it's not because they came to accept him, but it's because suddenly he had the red nose, and they were like, oh, now we can use him. So now we'll bring him into the fold.
So way overthinking it.
Yeah. So
it's just ridiculous.
Right, so it's not that there was a level of acceptance like, oh, Rudolph is different, so let's be his friend. And that even goes as far as like they attack Santa Claus in it, saying that he's just using Rudolph.
Oh my gosh!
And
well, let me just set the
I
record.
agree.
Let
It's
me set
very
the record
much
straight.
overthinking.
I am against bullying, and I love
Right.
Rudolph. So there you go. All right,
Yeah.
I just solved the whole problem in 10 seconds. Rudolph is going to advance, and we have our final 4.
We just lost all the millennials who
That's
listen
fine.
to this.
That's fine. We need to teach them that Rudolph is a good Christmas movie with a.
Right.
Well, we were just using them anyway for votes.
That's good. Oh, poor Rudolph.
All right, we're gonna. This is big. We're down from 32 to 4, and Christmas Vacation versus.
When you go to do the final one, you need to have Santa come.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Ooh,
oh,
that
yeah.
would be a good one.
Do any of the 3 of us have any direct contact with the jolly old elf?
Well, my wife's Jehovah's Witness, so I lost my contacts to Santa Claus almost 20 years ago.
Yeah,
I think he used to be married to my sister-in-law.
Well, if it helps, guys, I tell you what, I'll try my best to pull a favor with Jackson's elf. His name is Parr, and every night he goes to see Santa while we're sleeping. So I'll let Parr know that not the next week, but the following week we need Santa here to do the final pick. How's that?
Sounds good. That's a great idea.
See what Parr can do. Okay.
And he'll come down the former Watson Holtree chimney
of the high-rise brick white edifice. That's right. And remind me to tell you why we call it that, Jim. We've run out of time. This has been Foreman Watson Holtree's version of Done Lite. It's brought to you every week from 530 Frederica Street. Thank you for listening, and next week we will attack the final four of the Christmas movie bracket. Take care.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith and justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!